Just quickly, good morning. Thank you everyone for attending this little presentation webinar update on our ASX release this week, which is the Gallium Network update from our Golconda project in Northwest Arizona. Very exciting update for us. Has been working feverishly behind the scenes for the last 8 months, and it's a huge de-risking event for the team at G50. I think with that, we'll get straight into the presentation, and then we followed up with some Q&A at the back if there's anything to follow up on. So just for a quick reminder, G50 is in North America. We have two priority projects, one in Arizona, then Golconda, and then our second project, Whitecaps in Nevada. The US is geographically very well endowed, and it's one of the reasons why we like being there. There's opportunity to make significant discoveries. For us at Golconda, we've been there since 2019, 2020, and today's update is a culmination of the bulk of the work we've been doing there for the last 5 years. Golconda is in Northwest Arizona, as you see here on the screen. Our main target there is a gold and silver target, part of the old Golconda historical high-grade zinc mine there from the early 1900s. Where both projects have similar DNA, very close to infrastructure, two of the best states, we believe, in the US for mining support and culture. Both projects have significant patented claims, which is private property, and we're drilling in the shadows of head frames. The opportunity for making big discoveries is very high, and we're excited by both projects. Just a quick high-level corporate overview. And so what you see is what you get. It's roughly 200 million shares on issue. There's no warrants. There's no options. A very tight capital structure. Insiders own roughly about 20% of the register, and the top 50 own 72%. Very well supported through the life of G50 so far. It's very much appreciated. Our cash balance as at the end of December, about $7.6 million. We've been drilling at both projects, and clearly the network and the results today have all been funded through that. We're still very well funded for the rest of the year and the continuing drilling programs at both projects. There's a brief update at the end on just how that's going and timing of next updates as well. So Golconda, again, historical zinc, lead, gold, silver mine. That was one of the attractions. We're drilling in the shadows of the Mineral Park copper moly porphyry, and we are distal to that porphyry. Whitecaps in Nevada is a couple of years behind Golconda as far as discovery goes, and we're on our second drilling program there, and that's our diamond program. It's a 6-hole program, and we're roughly halfway through that at this stage. Golconda is unique. It's a treasure chest of opportunity, and so while drilling for the gold and silver targets, and we made an update and an exploration success there in August last year. Multi-element assaying has found significant, consistent intercepts of gallium in the altered rock. So that was really interesting for us a few years ago to make that discovery, and we've been working to understand a lot more about the geology and why it occurs where it does. Why has gallium become so much of a hot topic and interesting in the last few years? So about the time of discovery and our announcement in July of 23, China, who roughly controls 98% of the gallium market, put an export restrictions in place, and we've seen the resulting effect in the commodity price since then, an almost 4xing event. Globally, gallium is tricky to find. It's secondary to other primary ores. It's very hard to wake up and then go target just gallium. You have to really either look for it in and amongst historic bauxite operations or high-grade zinc ore bodies. For us, uniquely, it's part of the broader system in the altered rock, and it's in a sericite that gives us competitive advantage, we believe. So gallium primarily is a facilitator of electron mobility in high power uses in a constant on position that outperforms most of its peers. The current is silicon is the current sort of go-to material of choice. We believe that gallium and gallium nitride and gallium arsenide will slowly replace that over the next decade or so. If you see on the bottom of the presentation here, defense is roughly 75% of demand. We have crossed the Rubicon into consumer electronics for fast charging, and we are now seeing an industrialization of demand and use for gallium. We expect the market grows at 5 to 10x by between now and 2030, and that'll largely be driven by high data use in data centers and hyperscalers and so on. So foundational price inelastic demand from defense, And then we believe, incremental price inelastic demand from these other uses as well. Just a couple of main bullet points just to highlight, the strategic opportunity here. China, that roughly controls 98% of the gallium supply. It's a byproduct of the bauxite that they process. They control 80% of the bauxite market, and it's a secondary, product for them from that. They mentioned it in their 14th five-year plan a few years ago, and they kind of gave us the heads up. They thought it was going to be pretty important and quite strategic. So that's China giving the heads up on what they were thinking even back then. Last year, I think it became a watershed moment for those looking at gallium on the demand side. We kind of find that one of the biggest and smartest and best sort of operators in the tech space, being NVIDIA, started partnering with groups, looking at finding power delivery architecture and solutions. They've kind of locked up partnerships with the three biggest groups around the world: Infineon in Europe, Navitas in the US, and Innoscience out of Southeast Asia. So, NVIDIA have already started working on power solutions for their product lineup over the next few years. And we think it's really instrumental to sort of follow what they're thinking and doing in the sector. So this would be demand on top of what we currently see being the main defense uses. In defense sense, it's mostly used for radars for attack and defense. The more power you put into the radar system, the longer you can see, and the smaller items you can track. We imagine it's been pretty useful in the recent theatres of Ukraine and Russia and the Middle East. So just going back to basics and a brief understanding the timeline, we've been moving things fairly quickly, we believe, to understand the gallium opportunity at Golconda. On the right there is the testing configuration we use for the network, and the results over the next few pages is a function of starting through this configuration. So just to highlight, we made the discovery in mid-July 2023. We had to find a really high quality partner to do the work with us. We knew we were probably embarking on something that not too many people out of China would understand. So we chose the best partners we could find, being SGS Lakefield. They have a 2-decade experience of working with gallium and associated projects, and they've been a wealth of knowledge for us. In 2024, we started the work and we delivered the phase 1 and phase 2 mineralogy updates in middle of last year, around July and August again. And we confirmed in the watershed breakthrough moment for us is understanding that 90% of the gallium reports to 10% of the rock. And there's physical properties of the gallium in the sericite that helped inform us of this low-cost proven pathway to upgrade into a bulk concentrate. And the mineralogy has largely informed the outcomes that you see today. It's really exciting. We see a lot of the reporting in the coarse fraction and then preferentially to the fine fractions as well. And that we see that when we have sulfides in the system where there's precious metals, we can grab those as well through a fairly simple flotation circuit too. So our expectation is primarily Golconda is a precious metals project. The economics will be driven by the precious metals, which is handy for us. And the gallium is a really handy sort of strategic mineral that comes along for the ride. It was really important to kind of understand this is a volume game. You need kind of large intercepts. We kind of show here on this slide is the consistency of the mineralization. So it's from surface. We see it at the end of the hole. We kind of run a 10-gram cutoff just to try and understand interpret the consistency of it. And the holes all kind of look the same. So the chart there is the gram meter intercepts, nice big volume numbers, and that gives us a lot of flexibility in the modular approach to production. And we would like to meet the market as and when the market needs it, and mostly from a domestic standpoint is our expectation. Just on the right column here, GRC 13 and 14, they're sort of 50, 100 meters apart from each other at the northern end of the project. GRC 15 is almost 1,000 meters away, and we just highlight here the consistency of the intercept. So it's in the altered rock, it's in the alteration, and it's fairly consistent up and down the property. So, looking at the numbers and the drilling to date, we see it consistently reported. We believe there's a decent number of tons there to work with. The next part was, well, can we process it? The mineralogy proved that we thought we could, and that's what August last year, that was one of the gates that we had to step through. And it sort of told us that and informed us of the next steps. So again, 90% of the gallium reports to the muscovite, the sericite, coarse grain nature, and so that was supported what we believe was the conventional sort of mineral processing techniques, the low touch crushing, screening, and flotation. The optics would be that be a lower capex opportunity to upgrade into a bulk concentrate and then hopefully find a path to market. The met test work, validates the potential for strategic supply in the USA. And so we see gallium grades from feedstock into the bulk con up to anywhere between 150 and 200%, and recoveries of 70% are achieved. Just to note that this is an unoptimized number. This is kind of first pass. And so we expect that over the next 6 months, as we go through the gears of understanding the ore and how it behaves, we like to think that we can get improvements on those numbers as well. Again, we see silver and gold in the system. It's a big system. When we do see it, it's usually in the sulfides. We've basically, between the mineralogy and the network, we know that we can get silicates and with the sulfide, with the silicates where the gallium sits, we send it one way, float off the sulfide another direction, and that's where we're going to grab all the precious metals. There is no offtake. There are no other commitments on this project. So these are all significant byproduct value, for us at Golconda, and will go a long way to helping achieve what we believe hopefully will be some commercial landmarks over the next 6 to 12 months. Good recoveries of the gold and silver, but again, unoptimized, and this is first pass. So this is a pretty simple process schematic. This is what we expect it will look like. And then, at the moment, we're now moving into sort of more bulk ton and then a bigger test work framework that will hopefully lead to what we believe will be some customer validation or discussions, just making sure that the end product that we can deliver will be something that the market can handle. And so far, the feedback has been pretty strong. This is a fairly standard, traditional, proven pathway. This is very much what you'd see in a hard rock lithium mine in Western Australia, a simple crushing and screening and flotation, upgrading, getting to a bulk concentrate for sale to a downstream refinery. We are looking at opportunities to understand how we go from a bulk concentrate into a refined 4N or 6N product. What we would say, though, I think for a path to market, and I think for G50 at this stage, we're probably better off looking at potential partners on that part of it. And then at some stage, post the initial concentrate work, we can understand if that's a viable opportunity for G50 to follow. At this stage, it's all a bit new, so we're just understanding the move into the bulk concentrate and the upgrading this way. And so far, we don't see any major bottlenecks in achieving what we're trying to do. So I think for a smaller developer like us, on the cusp of cracking the code, it's all about keeping the upfront capex down, keeping the complexity of the processing flow sheet down, and maximizing our speed and path to market. There is significant demand for gallium coming through between now and 2030. That's been voiced to us both by government and potential customers and downstream chemical groups. There was a prevailing view that I think supply might find its way to market despite export restrictions, but we don't see that changing anytime soon. So there's going to be a premium, we believe, for not just Western world gallium production, but definitely if you're inside the lower 48 states, as we are in Northwest Arizona, we think there's going to be a viable path to market. And again, we have the precious metal credits that help come along for the ride as well. So a lot of this, the process schematic here, it's all proven and scalable processing pathways. It should be very modular is our expectation. Speed of product samples, and we're getting the high grades, improved recoveries. Again, the precious metal credits. Just a reminder, this is unoptimized. So that's what the next sort of 6 to 12 months of work will be done. And then we've got the multiple revenue streams as well. So we're looking at potential aggregate product. We expect we'll be probably utilizing the bulk of that ourselves for building out for construction and infrastructure. You've got the gold silver concentrates, and then you've the potential aggregate products. So that's a nice sort of brief summary of where we've been in the last 2 years on this journey and where we're at. In the appendix on this presentation that will be on our website shortly is just a reminder of the district scale opportunity. We've got a very good understanding now of the geology, we believe. This orange fault line controls a lot of the production within the district here. That's a 20-kilometer long feature. We've got 4 kilometers of it. We're only drilling sort of 1 to 2 kilometers of it now. So there's the drilling historically. We've got a good handle of the tub vein that is a controlling structure. And this is the update we put through in February. So when we completed our core drilling, which is testing for sort of the depths and understanding what's going on at Golconda. But you'll see here on this figure all the labels of the RC drilling that's taking place. We're probably about 20-25% through the program, and you'll see looking to add strike extent and understand the mineralization and the rest of the model up to the northwestern corner here, and then the potential growth in the lateral here, these stacked veins in this altered zone. So we start to sort of try and place and context size and scale, and that's definitely both for the precious metals and for the strategic minerals here at Golconda. So I think that's a nice short, sharp introduction and also summary of a lot of the work that's taken place and where we're at. And then everyone knows that I'm always available for an update. I love talking about our project in G50, but I guess if there's any questions at the moment, I'm happy to sort of take them now, and otherwise I can let you get on with your day. Is there anything there to deal with, gents?
Mark, we've just got a question on how much drilling is going on at Whitecaps at the moment. If we could just give an update on that.
Back to Whitecaps, sure. So just as a reminder, so last year we did the dozen odd sort of RC drilling short holes, about 100 meters only, over sort of 1 to 1.5 kilometers of strike. They generated some really good results from both the gold and the antimony. And the antimony is high grade, but we use it for targeting. And so that generated a 4+2 hole option for the core drilling. So we've completed 3 holes. These are all roughly 400 to 500 meters deep. And so we're looking at roughly 2 kilometers plus of core drilling spread over a narrower focused in the northwestern part of Whitecaps. And so 3 holes completed, 3 more to go. The next 3 holes will be 1 deeper, 1 and 2 shallower ones closer to our boundary with Scorpio. So the opportunity at Whitecaps is massive and significant. It was last mined in 1950s and 60s. It was 100,000 ounces at like an ounce gold. And so for us, it's really exciting. It's just really early. And so it just requires a bit more work. We're measured twice and cut once. So, there was 18 months to 2 years of surface work and mapping, interpretation. The 12 RC holes were short, probably the first and only angled holes on the property in recent memory. And now the deeper core drilling hopes to answer some of those other questions. So there's 2 specific targets we're sort of aiming for there. We expect to see the assay start filtering through in the next 6 to 8 weeks. But as we head into the Northern Hemisphere spring and summer, it's drilling season. And there's a lot of guys out there well-funded drilling for both lithium, strategic minerals, and precious metals. So it's pretty busy up there at the moment. But we're halfway through with half to go, and we're looking forward to updating the market when the assays come through.
Mark, we've just got another question. Just the catalysts we should be looking out for the next 6 to 12 months at Golconda.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so look, each time we get, the update on what we're doing at Golconda, it generates a lot more opportunity and we're excited for it. So it's about just making sure we understand first and foremost the resource and the geology. And so you'll expect a lot of updates more on the drilling. So the 6 to 7 diamond holes that were completed, 27 RC holes. So they're all to be reported over the coming months. The RC program won't really be finished, we expect, until probably May or June. So there'll still be results coming through in the second half of the year. On the MET work, this is a significant event for us. So now we work into the bulk samples, the bulk testing, and then, as you can imagine, engaging with the invested interest within the US about updating them on what we've been up to, where we're at, and where we're going. So I think I have a saying: second mouse gets the cheese. So there's been significant capital and a lot of people talking about gallium in the US. And I think for the money that's been committed, we haven't seen much in a supply response as yet in the last 12 or 15 months. So we expect that we want to start seeing some of those results. And if they're not there, we think Golconda can probably insert itself as being a proper domestic source but we're gonna work on this and go slow, make sure we work with our partners and potential partners. We understand the speed and path to market, but that's the next 6 to 9 months is largely at Golconda be a lot of drilling results, more MET work, and so on.
Mark, we just got a question just on gallium. How important is that to the Golconda project in your eyes?
Sorry, the gallium at Golconda or gallium in general?
Gallium in general.
Look, gallium is, look, 2 years ago, we actually ourselves didn't really appreciate the context of how important it was. And it wasn't until the market was reaching out to us to understand it better that gave us a level of confidence to keep doing the work. There is significant stress in the system. We don't think it'll really probably turn up and arrive in the commodity price until end of this year or early next. So you see a lot of end users and demand, and the chemical groups like Infineon and Navitas and Innoscience, Renas, TSMC have sort of vested out their gallium business. Intel's now talking about it. So we've probably hit peak opportunity for silicon to solve high power applications and opportunities. And the fact that Apple and Samsung use it in for the consumer electronics, and now we're seeing it turn up in that 5G to 6G components, and then just the high power applications. The beauty of gallium is also, you can also replace incumbent hardware and get some efficiencies as well. So as we sort of talk about a lot of the power loads and demand and how it squeezes the rest of the grids and the systems, we think there's actually an opportunity for retroactively putting some gallium components into systems and making them more efficient as well. So the total addressable market's massive. The last numbers we saw for semiconductors, roughly a $550 billion a year market. That's assumed to grow at a CAGR of 9-10%. So that's a $1.2 trillion market by early 2030s. We would safely assume that gallium nitride in those semiconductors is probably not even 0.5 or 1% of that market right now. So if it can grow its part of that addressable market between now and 2032, even if it can be 4 or 5%, you can kind of see how significant gallium can be in solving a lot of the high tech requirements for these guys. So there's an element of price inelastic demand for gallium. I kind of compare it to uranium, and I'm a uranium bull. To be honest, I'm a periodic table bull. Everything's not critical, everything's strategic. And I think if we've learned anything in the last 4 or 5 weeks, that if you don't have a ready supply of the things that you want to consume, close and domestic at hand, then I think things can go wrong pretty quick. So a lot of the themes we see in supporting both the location of our project, the commodities that we're levered to, they're unencumbered, they're not committed anywhere. We think we're in a pretty good position. But, the gallium will be circa 15-20% probably of the overall value of Golconda at this stage, unless the gallium price does something that is unusual, then it might become more. But it's a holistic approach and just a sensible, low capex approach to commercializing Golconda as a whole. Gallium will be part of it, as will the other commodities that we have at Golconda.
No more questions, Mark. Thank you for covering all that.
No, thank you. So again, reach out if you've got anything more specific. There'll be recording of the webinar, should be on our site soon. This presentation will be there as well. And we invite any communication and queries or presentations that you'd like to catch up on. We're available. So I appreciate everyone for making time. Thank you.